had originally made a screencast for this that was over an hour and 10 minutes long, and I lost it. So I'm going to do this live for you. I already have the code and a product that works, so I'm going to go sort of through the code. It might be faster than it was originally. What I should tell you that there's some tools I recommend using and I use all the time. One of them is the Web Developer Toolbar. You could come in here and do a lot of things with this. The basic things I use this for is resizing for testing for 800 by 600, and I also disable the cache. That's very important because you could be working with code over and over and over again, trying to change it, and your browser's holding on to the code so it doesn't change. And so this is very important to do. I also have another product I rely on even more, and it's called Firebug. And in Firebug, you can come in and you can see where things are, line numbers, stuff like that. So I can see that the portal personal tools are in public.css. And I could come in, this is like a sandbox. I could come in and make that blue, see how that looks, and then I could go change the A tag to white so it works, and there it is. This is pretty nice when you're trying to figure out what's going on. As you see, the color down below here is crossed out, meaning that this is the color that's being used. Now, when I refresh this now, it's going to go away. So I would bring my code to the file system. I got a couple goals in this tutorial. Is I want to make a site that looks just like this. It will, when you're logged in, it won't show this bar, the bar up here, the personal bar, and it won't, it'll show how many days there are till Christmas, and it'll also hide, let's see, hides that. Also, I'll hide the icons that are there. When you install a product, you just hide the icons for the people that aren't logged in. So the first thing I should do is tell you should set up your environment. So to set it up, you should come into your Plone site, and you should go to the Portal CSS, and in here you must click debug mode. Otherwise, you will not see the changes of your CSS. Also, when you look at Firebug, you won't see the lines over here where it says portlet.css. You'll see some kind of cache thing because it takes the CSS and it merges it all together. At the end of the day, when you're done, you want to take that off because it speeds Plone up considerably. I'm only going to use 2 images, and I'm going to try to use the minimum amount of CSS to make this happen. I'm going to try to use the best practices like build out and paster. When you're doing a build out, you run a, sorry, I lost all my code. You run a command, something similar like this. This command will take and make your skin for you, your skeleton. So if I click enter, it'll start asking me questions. Well, I already know I want it to be a Plone theme, and I want to call it, sorry, Santaplex. This skin, by the way, is for the elves and the reindeer that work with Santa, so they can organize, get things ready, before Christmas comes. I'm going to use Plone Default as my skin because I like using it already. It did a lot of the work for me already, so I'm just going to override certain things. But I'm going to leave their CSS there. I'm just going to override it. So there's a public CSS and this a print CSS and all that stuff. I'm going to leave that there. I'm just going to sort of override that, save myself the time. Ooh. I'm not going to do any documentation. Version 0.1. Most of these you could just kind of click through. You put in your email address. Make sure that it's false at the end here. And it creates this product for you automatically. I told it I was going to make it a Plone theme, 3 theme. Can you see that? There's other ones. There's a Plone app, and it uses a 3 namespace. This uses 2. So it'll end up being plonetheme.sanaplex. So to show you the final product, I put it in the SRC folder because that's where they live now, unless you're using an egg. So this is my product. And you may notice as I go along, this is what you're used to seeing if you ran any kind of DIY Plone style. You're used to seeing these browsers, profiles, skins. Another command that you'll use at the end of this is this bin build out -0, -0. And what that does is allow you to use your file system product instead of the egg. Okay. Also, Joel may laugh at this. Within your product, where you're making your Plone and Zope, there's the build out, and you want to add that to your build out. I'm going to go ahead and show you the changes I made. I'm going to go ahead and show you the changes I made with my password and all. So there's 4 places you need to make a change. You add this line here underneath the build out parts area, and that will allow you to get to the SRC part of the structure here. This SRC folder. And then you want to add, yes. Can you see that okay? So you want to go and you want to add it to a few different places here in the eggs. That's my new product's name, plonetheme.sanaplex. And you want to add the same exact thing down here in the ZCML. And also this develop. Once you have that, then you run that build out -0, and you'll get your product. It'll recognize it. And when you start Zope, which, by the way, you should always start Zope when you're developing. You should always start Zope with a debug mode or a foreground, because you can see the errors as they come, and you can see the changes mostly right away. So I'm running this in bin instance foreground. One of the things I forgot to tell you is I ran the paster in the command line, but there's another version that I don't have the internet right now. But if you go to paster.joelburton.com, you can put in the same information, and it'll give you a zipped product, and then you just do the rest with the build out. One of the things I do when I make a product now, from experience, is I make my product names lowercase. I have a lot less trouble with the generic setup because of it, because there's some places where it needs to be the exact name of the product and some places where it needs to be all lowercase. So I make it all lowercase to make it less confusing for myself. So when you start styling your site, I made only one CSS file and one base properties file. The skin type things, the CSS, that kind of thing, all fall in the skins, like the images. So I have two images in here. One is the logo, and one is the gradient. So I have the base properties and the CSS. I personally love base properties. A lot of times when you make a website, you should only use 4 or 5 colors. Well, you can map those in base properties, and then when you come later on, you could easily change those colors. If your boss says, I want that a little more green, I want this to be this or this, it's very easy to change it if you in your mind say, these colors are going to go where I want them to go. And a lot of times the borders are all the same. Another thing before we start styling is information architecture is very important. A lot of people, when you build a home, you want to have the electricity and the plumbing and all that stuff. But most people in web design, they go right ahead and they get a Photoshop image and they say, this is what I want it to look like. But you should take into account of what your information architecture is going to be, and things like news and events and navigations and the global nav. How are things going to go in your site? What kind of information you're going to have? And this is very important to do. Now I'm going to get into what I did with the CSS. I usually, when I write my CSS, I usually go top to bottom, left to right, if I can. So it's logical, and I can find it later on, and I label things like base CSS. Base CSS is stuff that doesn't use a pound or a dot. It's not a class or it's not an ID. So I made this red color, and I made the borders of the visual border wrapper. And let me show you that. So when you come here and you use Firebug to inspect, you'll see the different levels, and visual border wrapper is right underneath body. So body can be on the outside of it, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and try this out here. Make a width of 82% or 83%. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a, why didn't that? Thank you. And then I'm also going to center it. If you do margin auto, 0 auto, it centers everything. The first number is for top and bottom, and the second number is for right and left. There's usually 4 numbers there, so this would be the same thing as 0 auto. But that's a shorthand, top and bottom, top right, bottom left. Also, I want to say something about the box model. So I have this podium here, and I want to put something next to it, like right here. The space between here and the podium is the margin. The space from this edge to this wood here is the padding on the inside of the box. It's pretty important to know when you're doing your CSS. So I use base properties, like I said, and I went in and I changed the logo to be logo.png instead of logo.jpg. And I just had to change it here. And when I go look at the CSS for it, the CSS I put here as a background image, this DTML portal URL refers to the root of the site, and the that's the background image. This right here, this logo name, I'm sorry. This logo name right here. I can get attributes from that logo. So right here, I'm getting the width of it, and it automatically changes and puts the width number in there for me. I can get the height and things like that. It's pretty darn cool. So if you would look at this kind of stuff, this is the site actions. As you can see down to the right, it says site actions. These are called global navigations. This is called a personal bar, breadcrumbs. This is the column 1. This is the column 2. This is the content area. They're named. Plone did a good job of naming them what they are. This is the footer. This is the colophon. So the CSS, once you get to know the CSS have great names, it's pretty easy to learn. So I'm just going to kind of breeze over the rest of the CSS here. I put this content background color, I added this to the bottom of the base properties. The variables here are all the same things except for the very bottom where I have content background color. And it's very easy. You just put a colon in there and string, and then you put the number. It could be the 3-digit number or the 6-digit number. And whatever you put in that value will be placed right here. When you render the code, it's right there. It's pretty nice. Right. If I put dotted in there and then it was at the same spot, it wouldn't, it would be weird. But yes, it's literal. Whatever you put in there goes there. Pardon me? I'm using the base property because it's going to help me make my site really changeable really fast if I need to change. It's very powerful. I will show you a demonstration at the end how powerful it could be. I think that's about it. That's about it for the base properties. It's really nice. You can get attributes, like I said, if there's an image or something. Plone gives you that for free. It's pretty nice. Next is the part that's sort of a pain. I don't know if anybody's used generic setup yet, but it's very frustrating. When you use Plone 2.5, everything was in a macro, and it was pretty easy to understand. Well, now you have about 4 files you have to change for any kind of condition. So there's these profiles here, and when you make your product, this uninstall thing's not here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So there's this viewlets here that comes up, and it's blank without these objects originally. I'm adding these things to my Plone site. They're going to I'm going to add my own Plone theme.Saniplex personal bar, and my personal bar is going to just be for the logged in person. I'm also going to insert it before the Plone locals language selector. And how did I figure that out? Well, there's this neat thing in Plone called manage viewlets. Manage viewlets will allow you to reorder stuff within a viewlet manager, and you could hide things, show things. I will attempt to hide the personal bar. So right here you see Plone Personal Bar, and you can see that it's within the iPortal top. And within the iPortal top also sits iPortal header, which includes all these things. So if I just click hide, and I go back to the site, that's gone. So that's an easy way for you to change stuff, but that's not a way you can change it in your product. So I'm going to go ahead and re-show it. So I put it in Portal Top, and I have to hide Plones because I don't want to interfere with Plones. So I'm down here, I hid it from Plone's portal personal bar. And the code that I did for the personal bar, I can quickly do for you. Anything that's in the generic setup is usually found in the portal view customizations. So let me go ahead and return this. Portal view customizations can be found in the root of your Plone site. And then you go down to the portal view customizations. It's the same exact things that are in the managed viewlets. So I'm going to go ahead and look for Plone.personal bar. I'm going to click on it, and it sort of puts this in this area, and I'm going to customize it. And I'm going to go ahead and steal some code that's already there to make this work for me. So now when I look at the site as a logged in person, this will be no change here. But if I use 127.0.0.1, it's the same exact address, but Plone sees it as it could be logged in or logged out. In this case, it's logged out. So you can see that that's gone in the logged out version, but here it is in the logged in version. So I took this code. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I took this code and I put it in the browser folder, and I made a folder called templates, and this is where it is. And you can see where I put this condition. But if you do just this, if you just copy the code from the portal view customizations and you put it in your product, things might go bad because it's calling for things like view anonymous. It doesn't know what anonymous is at this point. So you need to go in, and there's a viewlist.py where you can go in and define things so it knows where the personal bar is, and also what anonymous means, what these different things mean. Also, when you're dealing with this kind of a product, you need to change the configure.html and it's already made for you. The viewlist.py made for you. It's pretty. When you create the paster theme, it's already there, but it's pretty blank. It just has these two lines right here. I found it. Somebody else is using it. But let me show you a trick. When you're in your Zope and Plone, you can go and see what Zope's up to. You know, you can go in and go to parts, Plone, and then CMF Plone is where a lot of this stuff is. And you can go in here and go into the profiles and go into default just like your product. And in here is Plone's raw XML. This is where everything is. And so if you want to see what order everything is, you can just go call this up and put yours in there, insert before, insert after, and you can change the order of things. It's pretty nice.
You know this portal setup, manage export steps?
Yes,
After you've done the manage viewlets thing,
right.
it captures everything you've done?
So what he's saying is, if you you came in here and you did add manage viewlets. The only problem with this is if you want to add your own viewlet to this. You know, there's not a way to do that, but this is a good way to make your product work for you. So you come in and you hide the personal bar again. And then you go to portal setup. And in here you can export the viewlets. It doesn't seem to stay in any sort of order, so I just do a search for viewlet. And I click it, and I say, just give me the selected steps. It will make a file for me. I open it up. I think I put it on my desktop. So you can see everything here. It might be too much, but you can grab, if you know what you're doing, you can grab, pick and choose one of the things you want. So you have this configure thing, and here I had to go in and I had to tell it that I had the template folder. I had to make sure that they knew that it was here. And then inside that template folder, I have this personal bar viewlet. That links to no, that's not it. Sorry. Already did that. So you have the configure, you put it in there, and then you go and you put it in your viewlets.xml, which is in the profiles default. I'm missing something. Profiles. That ain't it. Okay, so what happens when you get to this point? You install your product, everything's great. Then you go and uninstall it. Hey, what happens is you have 2 personal bars left. They're just hanging out. They're leftovers. They're just hanging there to frustrate you. So you have to realize that, and you have to make an uninstall profile. I don't see too many other people making this profile yet. So the first thing I do is I go in and make an extensions folder, and I make an install.py. And in here, I tell it that I want to have the default and the uninstall. And they refer to default and uninstall. When the uninstall, I'm going to have a lot of the same things I have over here, the viewlets, the skin. I don't know why that's there. The properties tool. So I come back here and I purge these things and say, get rid of it. This will get rid of your frustrations. Another thing you got to do, I usually do, is I take and I come in here and I change the default skin back to Plone Default because it doesn't go back unless you want to. This could be a problem, I suppose, if you had a lot of skin somehow in there, but I don't know if it would be. You would uninstall it, it goes back to Plone Default, you install another skin. This gets rid of the folders that are inside of your Portal Skins folder. Also, it's probably a good time for me to tell you the Portal View customizations are the generic setup stuff. The CSS stuff in your product that was installed goes into Portal Skins. So in here, you'll see all the product stuff you have. The two images are here. Oh, they're not here right now. You'll also see the layers of way things work. So the higher the layer, the more it sees it stops. You know, it's looking for a file, boom, it stops. And this is where the skins are. That's the uninstall. But now I want to go and I want to put my own viewlet in there. So my viewlet is the fact where it puts these how many days until Christmas. And those are the same sort of files. In here, I add this from datetime, import datetime, and I put in that I wanted to subtract the days from Christmas and give me the days that are remaining. So then I also made a page template that goes along with it. I have it in the templates folder, and it pretty much just says I put this div on the outside, put this div on the inside, how many days, it grabs the days from here. And it spits out the information. So let me go ahead and install it. Yeah.
In that little bit you did there, the Python code that does the figuring out of the date, is that what that was?
Yep.
Okay. And then your template gets that variable that the Python creates.
And spits it out.
Yeah. They just have to be in the same folder. There's no importing of that data in any way from your Python code. It just knows that variable is there
Right.
just because it's in the same folder.
Not because I don't think it's because it's in the same folder, because this is in the templates folder and this is in the browser folder.
They're not in the same place.
Not in the same place. But Python's available.
All over.
You have an answer for that, Joel?
I think the question he's asking about is how is that wired when you're configuring ZCML to wire that?
Okay.
How do you wire the Python thing you wrote to the template you just made?
In ZCML. So I think Rob is
Right here.
make your font a bit bigger.
Okay. I'll go a little bigger. Till 11. I'm going to go ahead and install this product so you can see how it changes the look. Do something weird with my. I don't know what happened there. Let me fix it in my product. Nope. Yep. So let me go fix that in my code. What line was that? Line 32. So I can go ahead and be sure that it's in line 32. There's another thing I want to highlight to you. There's this great product out there called Plone Reload. When you're doing a lot of stuff with your generic setup, you have to restart Plone up a lot of times, and that could be time consuming. So someone made a product called Plone Reload. So once you have it started, you just sort of click reload the code, and there you go. You don't have to worry about going into command line and restarting all the time. It's very nice. You put this reload right at the end of your 8080. One of the things I want to show you is since I'm using base properties. Thank you. Since I'm extensively using base properties, there's a product I made, self-promotion, that it's called CSS Manager. And this product was made for if you're just trying to see what the site will look like if you tweak a few things, or if you're bringing your site to a client and you have the colors pretty close and they want you to tweak the colors a little bit. So once you install CSS Manager, you click into the Configuration Manager. This will look and see if you have the Portal CSS in debug mode. And it will let you know right here that it's in debug mode. If you want to go back to a regular one, just click Disable. So when I click this Turn On Customization, it will take whatever base properties I'm using. So with my product, like this one, Santaplex, uses base properties, it will put that into the custom folder. Let me show you that. Since the custom folder is the highest level, it will use that base property. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on customization. So it gives you all these kind of options that base properties already have, but it's in a more readable state. So, you know, you can see a preview of what your site logo is. You have choices on what fonts you want to use. If you want to change the background color, you just come in here and you can scroll this around. You can go in and you can pick an image. You update the theme now. It uploads that image. It takes those color choices you made. And all of a sudden you have an Easter site. It's kind of nice. You can go in there and you can tweak these colors and tweak them and make your boss happy. It's real quick. You know, you mapped all these colors together. And if I refresh the custom folder, you'll see that the bunny picture is in here and the base properties is also in here. If I delete these, it goes back to the Santaflex. On the same thing of taking the viewlist.xml from the portal setup, there's a product that a colleague of mine made called Glowworm. And Glowworm, Eric Steele's his name. Glowworm takes managed viewlets a little further. Before Glowworm, if you wanted to move something from one viewlet manager to another, you had to put a product in there. When I say move like this, we're not really going to move stuff. We're going to hide something. But Glowworm's pretty sweet. I'm going to give you a quick demo. Add inspect. Comes with a little maintenance thing like Firebug has here. And so if I click this, I can tell that that's Plone logo. If I click on this, I could customize that logo and change it, change its code. I could discard it, say bye-bye. I can move this all the way down to the footer if I want to. It hides it up there, puts it down the footer. So then you use the Plone setup, and you send that viewlist.xml into your product if you want to move stuff around like that. Glowworm doesn't yet have a way to put your own viewlets in there, but it's on its way. It's a pretty cool tool. I sort of flew past that because I had every example of every code, and I will have a screencast of this. It'll be probably about an hour and 10 minutes, and it'll be up on the Webline servers, and you can watch everything. I'll narrate it step by step, by step, by step, by step. And for now, I'll just take questions, because I think there's probably a lot of them. Right.
Do those declarations, can I use them other places, like in Python script, or is it only CSS?
I'll show you why you can use it in the CSS. It uses DTML, which is not used very much anymore. But on the very top outside thing here, it says include the base properties file. And it also says include portal URL so you can get to the root of everything. But I don't believe you can use them in Python. There's other ways to do Python variables. I would believe you'd probably make a global define somewhere if you want to use something throughout your site. .dtml, correct. That's another thing I could show you. Thank you. When you're looking at the file you want to change, it's not in there. You'll notice that it says DTML on this. So you need to put .dtml at the end of your, the name of your product. So it's Santaplex.css.dtml. And if you're also work with a page template, it's going to be a .pt. Any other questions I can entertain? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be in the Plone conference. There'll be a link to it from the Plone conference material. I'll try to have that by the end of this week. Any other questions?
I actually have a question about your CSS manager,
Yes.
because we have a university skin, and we're actually using CSS manager really as our configlet, so that people can set their functions and do things like that with it. And I mean, I see it here, with you just working with the CSS, but I hope you also realize that it's
Yes.
powerful for doing.
CSS Manager is pretty much a properties manager. It probably should be named, and you can have multiple properties in there. In the future, I hope to have it so that at the root level of your site, where you have the global navs, the top navigation, these are the folders right here that are on the bottom level. I hope to have a product working with 6 Feet Up, I think, where each of those folders, you can have a different property sheet in there. And so you can have the same look, just different colors and that kind of thing. That's very common, a very common requested item. Okay. Break. How many minutes? All right. Go back in 2:30, I guess.